Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be using these bold botanicals and tiny prints stamps from Stampers Anonymous. These are part of the new Tim Holtz collection and I just fell in love with the stamps when I saw them. So I thought in today's video we could have a play with them. So I'm going to take out this first background stamp and this has got a slightly larger flower print. There's no particular reason why I've chosen this one other than that I liked it for today's project. And I've got my A5 All & Create acrylic block, which I'm going to attach it to. Now, I thought I'd show you how to use Gilding Flakes very simply to just create a background. I've only got a handful of these Gilding Flakes left from Indigoblu, and so in today's video, I'm just going to use up the last of those to make this background. So I've got a piece of fat foam and I've got some flitter glue, and I'm just going to add a little bit to the sponge. And I'm just going to use my palette knife to push the glue into the sponge. We're just turning this into an ink pad. If you've seen my last couple of videos, you'll know how this works by now. So yeah, once we've got enough of the flitter glue on the sponge, we're then going to be good to go. Now, you don't want to oversaturate the sponge, but you do want a good coverage because you want it to be even when you're inking up the stamp, as it were, with the glue. So as you can see, the glue goes on slightly white, so you can see where you're putting it, possibly because I'm a little bit too heavy-handed there, but you will be able to see the glue on the stamp. And I've got some craft cardstock, and instead of putting the stamp to the card, I'm going to put the card to the stamp because this is a background piece. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit patchy, but I felt like I would get the best coverage doing it this way. And you do have to be quick when using tacky glue because you don't want it to rip the cardstock. So as you can see, you can just faintly see the creamy texture of the glue on the piece of card there. I'm just going to spray my stamp with some water and just wipe that off because I don't want it to dry on the stamp. These are the last remaining flakes of the Indigoblu chocolate box flakes that I had. I'm really sad to say that Indigoblu don't stock these anymore. When I originally used them in a video, I was able to add the link, but unfortunately they've sold out and they don't plan on getting these back in stock. So I was really disappointed about that, but they have got some other great flakes you can choose from. And of course, there's plenty of other brands out there as well. So as you can see, that big flake that I had, there was a few layers stuck together. So I peeled it apart just so that I could get as much of the flake on as possible. And then I'm just going to use those excess bits to fill in the gaps. I'm then going to use my scoochie, which is like the abrasive foam, just to run that all over the background so that we can reveal the pattern. And this is kind of like the fun part because you really hope that you've got good coverage, but until you put the flakes on and use the scoochie, you're not really sure how much of the stamp you got onto the background. And I'm really pleased to say that I did get most of it on in this one attempt. So yeah, I really like how this turned out. And of course, it's just a background, so it's just going to give a really subtle effect to the card that we're using. So I'm just using my e-cloth just to wipe off any excess bits. And then here's a little close-up shot of the shimmer and shine on the Gilding Flake background panel. So next I'm going to bring in the bold botanical stamp set, and I'm just going to use this one flower from the bottom right-hand corner today. And I really like to use solid stamps with multicolour stamping. So first of all, I'm just going to attach it to my smaller A7 acrylic block. And distress oxides are not great for stamping, but I find to get a better coverage, if you ink the stamp up with some embossing ink first, for some reason the distress oxide seems to stick a little bit better. So I'm using these two colours, Shabby Shutters and Fossilised Amber. And all I'm going to do is give a little bit of coverage to the stamp from the top, and then I'm just going to come in at the bottom with the Fossilised Amber. Now, if you're worried about contaminating your ink pads, you could always use a blending brush instead, or use a stamping platform and then just use one colour at a time and clean your stamp in between. I'm not too worried and I've never had a problem doing it this way. But there you can see, you get this lovely kind of rustic effect with the stamp. Now, I'm just going to show you another way to do this to get a better blend. And again, I'm just going to ink it up with the two colours. And I'm going to this time give it a little spray with some water. So I've got my distress sprayer and I'm just going to give it a fine mist. And then I'm just going to stamp that down on the cardstock. So you'll see in a moment that the the water sprayed one just gives a slightly richer, more blended effect. However, they're both equally gorgeous and it doesn't matter which one you prefer. But I do like to just mist it just so that the colours blend and you don't get any kind of harsh stamping lines from where you put the ink pad down on the stamp. So I'm just using my Tim Holtz trimmer. I'm just going to cut that down to size. And then I'm just using my scissors around the edges very carefully to just distress the paper or the cardstock with those scissors. Of course, there's plenty of tools out there that can do this for you, but I just have scissors and I just use my scissors. So I'm going to trim this background down now I do trim it slightly larger, but later on you'll see that I did cut it down. I decide I'm going to go with a 4.25 by 5.5 card blank. So I cut this down to 5.25 by 4. And again, I'm just taking my scissors just to distress the edges of the cardstock. I really want this to kind of have a vintage feel to it. So as you can see, all the lovely shimmer on there, the panel's cut down to size and it's all distressed around the edges. So next I'm going to bring in the flower and I'm just going to add some vintage photo distress oxide around the edges, just so that it blends in better with the craft cardstock background panel that we've made. Now, I've not added any more ink to my blending brush. The excess ink that was on it was sufficient for what I was doing there. So I've brought in my card blank and I've got this piece of Hessian or burlap and I'm just going to attach it to the card panel. This is just something from my stash. I think I bought it from Hobbycraft originally and it was a massive roll and I've been using it for ages. So I'm just going to add some double-sided tape just so that I can tack it in place there. So I'm just going to have it to the left of the card panel and I'm just going to attach it at the top and then make sure it's level on the front and then I can just tack it in place at the back. And then I'm going to use some quick grab glue. I'm using the Cosmic Shimmer. As I mentioned in a previous video, I'm really loving the new designed bottle. It seems much better. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this. So I'm just going to make sure that lines up nice and central onto the card front there. And then next I'm going to add a little bit of twine to the flower. So I've already added some double-sided tape to the back of that. And I've just got a piece of the string from the burlap ribbon that I've just pulled off one strand. And I'm just going to wrap it around 3 times on the front of that flower. And then the double-sided tape will just hold it in place until we've added some glue and stuck that down. So again, I'm just using the Cosmic Shimmer glue. And I'm just going to add that to the front of the card, slightly higher, but central still. Then I've got this sentiment, Thinking of You. It's white heat embossed on black cardstock. It's from the strip back sentiment stamp set from Funky Fossil Designs. I've added some foam tape to the back of that and then I've popped that underneath. And that's the card for today. I did decide to add a few Nuvo drops and you'll see some close-up photos of the finished card now. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate that you've took the time to watch this video and I really hope that you've enjoyed it. So let me know in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. So thank you so much. Take care.